Okay, welcome to the first tutorial. In the first tutorial what we're actually going to do is to learn how to sharpen an image. Now, sharpening is usually a thing that you do last. However, it may be that you've took a picture and that's all you need to do. You don't need to adjust the colours or to do any corrections. So therefore that's why we're going to learn how to do this first. Sharpening, quite often you need to sharpen nearly all your images just a little bit, just to get the best possible print quality. So it is something quite important to know how to do correctly. And there are filters, and if we look at the filter on Photoshop, we can see there are sharpen menu on there that allows us to sharpen the picture. Now we are not going to use that. There is a much better and more professional way of sharpening a picture, and you will see why. When you apply that sharpening using the filters, what happens is it does it, you've got no control over it after you've done it. So if you've sharpened it and you still doesn't look right and you say, right, I don't like that, what you're going to do, you're going to have to undo it and start again. Using the method that we're going to use, you've got full control after you've applied the sharpening. And this is how we do it. First of all, we need to be able to view the layers. So we're looking at the layers. There's the image layer. You just get a background layer, one layer, when you open a picture. And what we're going to do with that is to duplicate that layer. So we go to Layer on the menu, Duplicate Layer, and when the box comes up we just agree with that, we say OK. And you can now see we've got two layers, one on top of the other. So imagine you've got a photograph there, you've put the photograph on the table, and you've duplicated that photograph and you've put it on the top. That's how we're working, that's how layers work. Each one is like a separate layer on top of the other. So imagine them as a clear piece of plastic that you're protecting the part underneath, and we're now working on the layer on the top. So anything we do with this layer that's not working on the top there will not affect the bottom layer. This is the active layer, and to change the layers, to make another layer active, you click on whichever layer you want to work on. We need to be working on the top one. So having duplicated it, we now want to apply a filter. So we go to Filter, and these are the sharpen filters down there. We're not going to use those, we're going to go to Other. We're going to use what's called High Pass. So that's Filter, Other, High Pass. You will then get the High Pass dialog come up, and all you've got on this really is a slider. And you can see, if we look at the background there, it looks a bit like a piece of slate, and as I drag this up you can see the effect. There seems to be more colour coming through there, more of the picture coming through the higher I drag up. So you can see the effect there, and if I drag it to the left, the lower it gets. Now when we sharpen an image, usually the radius, we're working usually between 2 and 3 pixels. That is when we're working with a high quality picture out of a camera. It can be a bit less if you're working with a web-based image, but mainly you're going to be working with photographs. So we're working between 2 pixels and 3. I'm actually going to take this up to 3. Doesn't got to be exact, doesn't matter if you go a little bit over or a little bit under. You can see this effect now. We can just see the colour starting to creep through there. Okay, so we try to avoid that. We don't want the colour to come through. What we're looking at is just getting the line detail on the eye pass. It's always better to go slightly over than under. So if you're unsure, go slightly over the effect rather than under it. So we're working on 3 there. I'll click on OK. And you can see now, there you are, a gorgeous image. You're saying, what the hell's he done to that? It's all grey. Okay. Now, what we're going to do first of all, is to use the zoom tool down there, and we're going to double click that. So we're viewing the picture at 100%. Always zoom into 100% to view when you're sharpening, because you want to see the picture actually at its actual size. So, on the background layer there, we're looking in the layers palette now. What we're going to do is just above that, you can see the word normal there, that is the layer mode, and we're going to change that layer mode. I'm going to click there, Now usually when you click, the list will come down below or above, and we look down the list and we actually want soft light. So we click soft light, and now you can see the picture's changed drastically. If I just scroll across there so we can see a detailed area, so we're looking for an area that I managed to get in focus, which is the cow's head, and we can see the effect of the sharpening. Well, we can't really, because we didn't know what it looked like before. So to view that, if I go to the layer there and I click on the little eye, that will hide that layer, and you can see if we look now it's softer, and if I click, if you just keep looking at the cow's head there, can you see that sharpening coming in, off, on, and you can see we've got a much sharper image there. The beauty of this method is once we've applied that, we can now use the opacity of the layer. So if we look at the opacity there, we've got this slider, and basically 100% means it is opaque. We are seeing the full effect there. And if we drag to the left and we take the opacity down very slowly, it makes that transparent, and we can see what's underneath coming through. So if I drag it all the way to the left, the sharpening has gone completely because that is now fully transparent. If I drag to the right, you can see now I've got full control over the amount of sharpening from 0 to 100%. So having applied it, I've got more control, and I can just tinker with it here and there just to get exactly what I want. So I'm looking at it and saying, well, that looks okay, that's not too bad. So well, I'm working on about 73% there. I'll just double click the hand tool, and there's our full image. Okay, now if that's all we had to do, we would now flatten that image. So in other words, we would get rid of the layers, we would converge the two together, and to do that we would click on layer, and right at the bottom there, flatten image, and that has now compressed the two layers together. I cannot no longer use that slider, it has gone. We're back to basics. There's the finished completed image. Now you would do that before you actually saved it, so you would get rid of the layers, and then that would allow you to save it as a JPEG or a TIFF or whatever file format that you would use. Mainly, in most cases, you would save it as a JPEG. Okay, so that's the end of the first tutorial. That shows us how to sharpen an image, and I say usually that would be the last thing that you do after you've done all your editing, but in most cases you're a great photographer, you're going to have a perfect image to work on straight away, so you haven't got to do anything with it, and a bit of sharpening is probably all you need to do, he says. Okay, first lesson over.